So we just got back from seeing Furiosa. Just Furiosa. I know there's a subtitle that says Mad Max Saga, but really this is Furiosa's story.
Right before Fury Road, though. Even though, like I said, it is a Mad Max Saga, which is just, and it's mainly about her, but leads directly into Fury Roads.
Yeah, definitely. And so I've pretty much heard nothing but positive ratings on this one across the board.
Yeah, because this one was another action-packed sequence, basically. But this time, as you mentioned, and this is again mainly Furiosa. Just what happened to her during the time prior to the Fury Roads.
Mm-hmm. I think before we go into this, we should mention the other Mad Max material.
Yep.
I did remember watching the first three movies before Fury Road came out.
Yeah, I remember a little bit of the first one, not too much the second one. I didn't watch Thunderdome. And then, of course, watch Fury Road.
Oh, yeah. I saw the first one. The first one was more like an introduction.
Yep.
It wasn't fully Wasteland yet. Basically, we saw Mad Max's time as a cop before everything fell apart.
Yeah, it was like a rural town, basically, but it was just, before completely going to the Wasteland type of thing, or Borderland-esque. It was just people driving around in like 1960 cars and with shotguns and looking like, basically black leather suits and stuff like that.
It was basically the last remnants of authority, keeping everything together so that society doesn't fall apart.
Yeah, with society falling apart. And then the next two movies, just hearing about it more and more, it's just more about them leading up to the Borderland type environment.
Well, Road Warrior is where it started.
Yeah.
That's where the Wasteland all started. And the
Yeah.
Road Warrior is considered like, one of the best action movies ever made. And it's pretty easy to see why.
Yeah.
You got a lot of characters, you got a lot of set pieces, you got a lot of big vehicular action and a lot of there's not a whole lot of explosions, but from what I remember, but there's just a lot of action where it's like very fast and there's a lot going on. But you're really invested in the characters and the story, and the setting complements that.
Yeah.
And then Beyond Thunderdome is generally considered the weakest among Mad Max fans.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's PG-13 and not R-rated.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever that happens, like, people will be like, you gutted it a bit.
Yeah.
And that's happened a few times. There's a couple of other franchises I can think of where it went PG-13, and then with the follow-ups, they're like, okay, we're sorry about that. We'll go back to the R rating.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what they did with Fury Road.
Yep.
And I actually remember when Fury Road was coming out, that I did watch the previous Mad Maxes to get ready. And I think Mad Max is one of those franchises where it's impossible for me to dislike one of the entries.
Yeah, and it's really just because of the fact that it is a lot more action-paced, basically. So it's like if you're like even in it for the thrill, rather than like as some people will say, like the boring storytelling or something like that, Mad Max type of movie genre or that movie trilogy, you're more interested in, because it's just, if you just want to watch action, Mad Max is for you.
Definitely. But George Miller is one of those guys where he has this really interesting setting. He's got these really cool characters and a really interesting story to back up said setting. And that's why I really enjoy the Mad Max movies.
Yeah.
And actually, little thing I need to mention about Fury Road, it was one of two films that came out in 2015 where I had the most fun at a cinema.
Oh, yeah, because I still remember the trailers leading up to Fury Road, how it was just... everything was action, and then when you get to the movie and watch it, it was all action.
And in this case, I thought the actual movie was a lot better than the trailers. The trailers were selling it, but when you see Fury Road, it's like it's action from beginning to end.
Yeah.
You got your interesting story, interesting characters, and some world building. But I think it's kind of one of those instances where the trailers sell you on what you're to expect, but then you see the actual film and it goes way beyond what the trailers were selling.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Because, it did advertise, like, again, this is going to be all about action pace and stuff like that. And it delivered on that front for sure, but even heightened the action pack, a lot more.
Oh, definitely. And I was going to say Fury Road, it was one of two films I had the most fun. The other one that year was Kingsman, the first Kingsman.
Oh, the first... Is that the one where they took place back in during World War One?
No, the Secret Service is where we see Eggsy become a Kingsman agent, and Samuel L. Jackson was the bad guy.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
okay.
The first one was that was the first one. The prequel was the King's Man.
King's Man.
Set during World War One. But yeah, first Kingsman and Fury Road, those were the two films of 2015 that I had the most fun at the cinema with. Because they were so action-packed and they just had these really cool characters and stories and settings. It was just so immersive.
And the first Kingsman one, that was the one where the church sequence, right?
Yeah, where they parodied the Westboro Baptist Church. Infamous hate group, by the way. Yeah. And basically one of the agency slaughters all of them, set to Leonard Skinner's Freebird.
Yep, and I think it was like the one gunshot, and then all of a sudden everything went chaotic in the church.
Yeah, pretty much.
As if if you rang a bell or something like that, and then all of a sudden just had a trigger alarm to where everyone started fighting with each other.
Oh yeah, and that sequence was actually parodied in Family Guy. There's an episode of Family Guy
where I think one of the kids or something like that flip Chris's hat
and then he gets the board and then boof.
Yep, and then Chris and Meg start fighting the entire school.
Oh yeah,
but that was all because Brian.
He basically made a joke that he thought was funny, but others didn't think was funny.
Oh yeah, well yeah, because I think it was for that one, it was one of those jokes where it's it would have been funny back in the 2000s, but now it's considered racist.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Mad Max. Yeah, Fury Road. It was just so much fun watching that in 2015. One of the most action-packed movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
One of the best action movies ever made.
Yeah, definitely, and especially for back then too. Yeah.
Yeah, set a standard for action films that I think none of the others since then have been able to top.
Yeah.
Because it's there's a lot of action movies, and some of them can be interesting, others not so much. But yeah, Mad Max, it set the Fury Road specifically set a gold standard that I think none of the others have been able to obtain.
Yeah. And
I think that's because George Miller, he has this really interesting talent of crafting these really interesting settings, all these interesting characters, and putting it all together for this grand epic chase.
Yeah, the grand epic chase, that is for sure, and all just different faction trying to fight for one thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then you mentioned how everything became Borderlands-esque. Well, that's because, Mad Max, it's had an influence on post-apocalyptic media, and Borderlands is one of those franchises that took inspiration from Mad Max.
Yeah.
Which we did get a trailer for Borderlands in front of this.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
It was the same one, but it was, appropriate to have something like that in front of this.
Definitely, for sure. Although, funny enough, this is one of the few times where, or at least I've been to a movie, and they have back-to-back rated R, or at least, instead of the screen being green before a trailer, it was red.
We had a couple red band trailers in front of this, which has happened to a few R-rated stuff I have seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Bad Boys 4 and Deadpool 3. Those were the two R-rated movies.
Yeah.
But we'll save all Deadpool 3 for when we get to Deadpool 3.
Yep. And then, what else was there?
There was Alien Romulus.
Oh, yeah. Romulus, which is kind of... Because I know it had other films that the director had done in the past.
Yeah, he did the Evil Dead remake. He did Don't Breathe. And Ridley Scott's the producer on this.
Yeah, and try to do kind of a lot more intimidating or a lot more scarier environment.
I think with Romulus, it's a response to the negative reception that Covenant received.
Oh yeah, from the two movies right there.
Yeah, basically they're
previous two. Yeah.
Yeah, they're basically going back to basics with Romulus from the looks of it. They want to go back to the horror roots of what made Alien work to begin with.
Yeah.
But from the trailer, I can just tell, to anyone who's played Alien Isolation, if you really like Alien Isolation, I think you're probably going to like Romulus. Because it's got that isolation vibe to it.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. And then there's also a lot more bloodied up, kind of areas within the space station, in the beds or something like that. Too.
Yeah, the cryo beds.
The cryo beds, which kind of made it not all along with isolation, but maybe some other sci-fi horror, kind of like Dead Space.
Oh yeah, I did get some Dead Space vibes from this trailer. There's a moment in the trailer where large amounts of facehuggers, they burst through the door and then they're swarming around.
Yeah.
If you ever played Dead Space or saw footage of Dead Space, there's these tiny little parasitic necromorphs.
Yeah.
They move around like little blobs, and they have these like little strings, little limbs or something coming out of them. And then if they attach to you and they swarm, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
It's like that almost.
Yeah, because I know the facehuggers in the alien genre, they're just like, they try to latch onto the, little head. But they're like thousands, instead of like jumping in out from the eggs, like we usually see in the previous alien movies, now they're actually just like crawling like spiders, basically.
Well, maybe they took the eggs from a planet and brought them back for study and kept the facehuggers in these like jars.
Yeah.
And then they break out, and then they start getting everybody on the ship.
Maybe. I mean, I guess for the people that will watch it, that's something to figure out. But it's just like one of those things where it's like, oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, it will probably. I don't know. It probably will be good.
Yeah.
It's just I'm a little worried because Disney owns Alien now, and you're just wondering how could they save the franchise after Fox drove it into the ground.
Yeah.
Kind of like how Fox drove Predator into the ground. How could that franchise be possibly saved?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
We'll see though.
But Prey wasn't that bad from what I remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, there was another trailer. I don't quite remember what it was, but I think we got to talk on the topic at hand here.
Yep.
So I think with Furiosa, the expectations I had going in, I was expecting this to be very action-packed and consistent with what had been seen in the Mad Max series.
Yep.
And I got that.
For which one?
This one, Furiosa, I thought it was consistent with the other movies, very action-packed. We have our characters and our plotting. But with this movie, I kind of feel like it feels almost like the older movies almost. At least what I was getting.
Maybe, but I mean, this feels like, again, it's trying to get more into that Fury Roads, because they had like a lot of scenes where everyone was like staring intensely, the camera was shooting in very closely, kind of very similar to Fury Roads, where everyone's just staring intensely, angrily, or excitement and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
the camera's just kind of like shaking and getting closer to the person that's like doing like a, or like stare down basically.
Oh yeah, they were definitely doing that. But what I was getting at was the older Mad Max movies. They had a balance of character moments and action.
Oh yeah.
That's what I feel like was done with this movie. Like George Miller, he went back to what he was doing with the first three movies, and he applies it to this.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Fury Road didn't have that. It's just Fury Road was like, nonstop action. It had its character moments.
Yeah.
But at its core, it was basically the action movie that all action movies have failed to be over the last few years.
Yeah.
Or at least a good amount of them.
Yeah.
But with Furiosa, it's basically, there is action, there's a lot of story and plotting.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure how some people are going to react to that, but most of the reactions I've seen are pretty positive.
It seems like that way too, yeah. And especially with Furiosa being a lot, we're learning a little bit more about her just becoming what she became in Fury Road, how she's just kind of a little bit more of a warrior, basically.
Yep, how she came to be what we see her in Fury Road. And I think this is where we can start going into depth.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. We'll talk about moments and stuff that we remember. There's just a lot that happens within this 2-hour something runtime.
It was roughly a little bit over 2 hours. And the first things first is starting up with Furiosa's home, which is not the Citadel, but it was like another area that was pretty close to the Citadel.
It was the Green Place. They established she came from the Green Place of many mothers.
Yep, the Green Place. Well, I mean, there were other people. I think there were like a few men there, though.
Yeah, there were men, there were other people that did live in there. They were oasis hidden within the wasteland.
Yep.
Although you would think, like, someone, at some point or another, a large group would stumble upon that and try to take all those resources.
True. Like the people that Furiosa, the young Furiosa, and I would imagine her sister, encountered when they heard something from the distance.
Yeah, they find a few marauders in the Green Place.
Yeah, and you would not think, like, if it's green, you would not think, like, we should tell our other people about this, right now.
Oh yeah, they're definitely doing that. Where we got to tell our people about this because there's so much here, and there's like so much that could keep us going for a little while.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they were doing something. I don't know if they were like chopping up meat or whatever the case they were.
Yeah, I think they were chopping up meat.
Yeah. So in the meanwhile, Furiosa decides to cut off like a lot of the gas from the bikers.
Yep, and then the bike breaks down. It's like, oh, what? I'm slowing down.
Well, one did because she was getting to one, or she got one, but then as she was going to the next one, all of a sudden one of the bikers found her and just kind of was like, "Crap, we got an intruder!"
Oh, definitely.
And then she's trying to whistle like for the alarm, like, like she's in trouble. And it's like, all right, no, all right, she's learning some people nearby. We got to get going.
Pretty much. And of course, there are people in the green place that try to get her back.
Yeah, because they capture Furiosa.
Yep, and then they don't get up to her in time, and then the mother has to go after her.
Yep.
Has to leave the green place.
Yep.
And then eventually, as Furiosa continues on, that's when she finds that there are some marauders, biker gangs out in the desert.
Yep. I mean, eventually, once they lead them, or once they, got her back to where they came from, becomes like an encampment, basically. But of course, she grew up with the idea or with the foundation of don't tell anybody about the green place.
Don't tell anyone about the green place because no one else can be trusted, and this land is sacred. If our resources get pillaged, it's going to be bad for us.
And everybody else then too, yeah, eventually at that point.
Yeah, pretty much.
So she basically just kept hush-hush, and anybody that would know where to go, she made sure they are hush-hush.
Oh, definitely. But at no point do any of the marauders or bikers think about possibly breaking them. Like, if you break a person enough, you can get the information out.
Well, I mean, it felt like the main antagonist, Chris Hemsworth's
Dementis, as he's called.
At the one point after he captured the mom and eventually recaptured her, Furiosa, because she went back trying to cry out for the mom, you would not think at that point that was the breaking point. Like that whole breaking point of...
Yeah.
Because, basically got her on the, you could say, cross, basically.
Yeah, he tried to crucify her. That's what he was doing.
Yeah, crucify her on the spot. But it's like, all right, that's your mother. All right, you could, stop the torturing and stuff like that if you tell us where your place is.
But I guess really, yeah, she doesn't. She never tells where the green place is because that's what her mother says is don't get this information out.
Nope. Yep. And she even told her other companion right before she, leaves to rescue Furiosa was make sure nobody knows.
Oh, definitely.
So, so mom dies. And Furiosa just becomes like a captor of sorts.
She becomes like Dementis' adopted kid.
Played as it, even though she basically was like a sort of hostage or a prisoner, basically.
Mm-hmm. And basically, she travels around with them across the wasteland.
Yep.
Wherever they go, she goes with them.
Yep.
And it's like a massive biker horde, and they emphasize that with these like wide shots of the desert, and you see them traveling all together.
Yep. So it's like a huge biker, not just a gang, but like a biker army, basically.
Pretty much. Like this biker army was bigger than the one Lord Humongous had.
Yeah. So you had them, and she sees the other factions of the biker armies, basically, or the factions, and then we finally get to the Citadel.
Oh yes, we get to the Citadel.
First time around, Chris Hemsworth, he was like, "Hey, just bow down to me, and then everything could go smoothly."
Oh, definitely. But this scene where he's actually trying to negotiate with the Citadel,
yep,
it was similar to in the Road Warrior when Lord Humongous and his gang, they were trying to negotiate with the people who were at the abandoned oil rig.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, George Miller, you're basically doing the same scene again, almost.
Almost, except this time, we knew, even all of us that watched Fury Road heading into Furiosa, we all know what Immortus Joe and his army can do.
Oh, yes.
Which is basically, hey, our soldiers are suicidal. So it doesn't matter how many people you have. we have a lot more who are ready to bomb you themselves.
And don't forget, we have Gastown and the Bullet Farm as allies.
Well, they didn't mention that yet, but yes, they do have those guys as allies. And also we have explosive, spears. And guess what? You're all gonna die.
Pretty much. Because, Morton Joe, he's not willing to trade with another warlord.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, let's get something straight here, mate. I'm not going to negotiate with you. We're going to fight.
Yeah, or more like, no. You bow down to me, and then we can negotiate.
But Chris Hemsworth's like, I'm not bowing down to you. I'm the god of thunder.
And he's like, yeah, no, but I'm the immortal one here.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it leads to a massive breakout fight when the negotiations don't work.
Yep, and then young Furiosa and, Chris Hemsworth, was it Dementus?
Yeah, it was Dementus.
Dementus, they escape. And then they capture Gastown.
Yeah, they capture Gastown, which is we saw briefly in Fury Road. We get to see more of here. It's basically a giant. It's not giant. It's a big oil rig.
Basically, yeah, it's a giant, big giant oil rig. And then once they capture it, that's when they got back onto the negotiating part 2, but a lot more aggressive.
Definitely.
Because it was like, hey, you better negotiate with us, otherwise say goodbye to Gastown. And it's like, you're lying. It's like, you better believe it. I got freaking pipe here ready to sling down on one of your guys and a code here to blow up Gastown.
Oh, pretty much.
And only one of those two things happened, which is the guy's head getting spiked, basically.
Yeah, the guy's head gets spiked, and then with Chris Hemsworth, he gets his nipples ripped off. Did you see that?
Well, yeah, and that's how the guy got his head, spiked through or piked through because it was nipples ripped, and then he's like, ah.
Well, he had kind of a reaction where he's like, oh, right, I'm better now. I get because he's all strong and buff and tough, but it's like if anyone had this part of their body ripped off, they'd be like, and it'd be really painful because it's like
it would be very painful. That's for sure.
Yeah, to anyone who's had a twister prank pulled on them, you know how painful it is.
Yeah.
And I did like the reaction of the Gastown guy, the one in the business suit. He's like, oh, I don't want that to happen to me. Did you see that? He kind of reacted that way too.
Well, yeah, because he's still acting like any of the last remaining businessman would do, even though it's a wasteland. So it's like, what is, come on here. Negotiation table is getting fallen short here.
Yeah, or maybe he could have shouted out, I do not like a twister! I hate twisters!
Yeah.
But yeah, that negotiation scene, the second one at least, that was one of the best scenes in the whole movie, actually.
Yeah, because they were negotiating aggressively. Then, of course, when Mortis Joe finds young Furiosa, it's like, who is she? Oh, she is.
She's my kid, little Dementus. And then he's like, really?
Child, is this true?
And then she's like, no.
And it's like, And it said he looked at him like, thought so. All right, if you want your thing, we could do that. Only at a 1/3 of it, everything else like that. As long as my people are safe. Also, one of your engineers stays with me, and the girl that you claimed that was your daughter, even though she's not, she comes with me.
And of course, Dementus goes ahead with it, but then he has this face down moments with Morton Joe where he's like, "This ain't over yet, mate."
Oh yeah, no, because even though he got Gastown, but it was at a very limited conditions basically.
Oh, definitely.
So it was like, yeah, you got it, but at a very disadvantaged point.
Oh yeah, and then of course when Furiosa becomes a part of the Citadel, I did hear about this, but Joe basically makes her one of the wives initially.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we'll make her one of the wives, but we're going to have to wait until she's of age because we need a healthy heir to take over the Citadel once I'm gone.
Basically, yeah, at some point, she is bound to be as a future wife while everyone else is going through that phase. But she is, she's already kind of grew up rugged a little bit to where she can figure out an escape, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. This is not your typical helpless person. No, this is someone that knows a thing or two about survival.
Yeah, so she cut off her hair and then put it on like a wig again. And then when the time came, when the guy brought her to the chamber to do something, she ran away. The guy got the hair and...
Yeah, and then she hides under the pipe, and then they're asking Rictus, what are you doing out here?
Nothing.
Nothing? Is that so?
It's like, yes, nothing. It's like, you're lying.
No, seriously, I had a bad dream and I ran out. I thought, never mind what I said.
Yeah, he's like, I thought somebody ran away. It was just a dream. And it's like, sure, buddy, sure.
And actually, we do get to see Joe's third son in this movie, which is someone who did not show up in Fury Road. Yeah. It was Scrotus, that's who it was. Because Immortan Joe, they established that he wants, in Fury Road, that he wants a healthy heir to take over the Citadel once he passes away.
Yeah.
The reason why Rictus can't take over is because he's all brute and strong, but he has the mind of a child.
Yeah.
And then one of the other sons, it was that little guy that was always in the chair.
Oh, yeah?
Looking through the telescope in Fury Road.
Oh,
he's
yeah?
intelligent, but his disability prevents him from ruling.
Yeah.
And then Scrotus, he has both the strength and the intelligence, but he's really psychotic.
Yeah.
And Immortan Joe's like... Well, this doesn't happen in the movie, but the reason why Immortan Joe doesn't want Scrotus ruling is because he's a very bloodthirsty, psychotic man.
Yeah.
And Joe's like, no, I can't have a psychopath ruling the Citadel. I can't do that at all. I need someone who's really smart. Someone who can run the whole thing.
It's like, well, smart, cunning, strong... Basically, the perfect specimen, basically.
That's what he's trying to get. Because I remember reading about this, but the Mad Max tie-in video game, you actually get to deal with Scrotus. And you see how psychotic and bloodthirsty he is. And I actually need to play that sometime.
Yeah.
But, and then, actually, there's another scene before we move forward. There's another scene where we see one of the wives, because you thought Immortan Joe had 5 wives? No, he's got way more than that.
Well, yeah, he's got more than that, for sure. But then one failed like the 3rd time, so it's like 3 strikes you're out. It's like, well, so what does that mean for 3 strikes for one lady?
Well, we're going to make you a milk harvester. We're going to hook you up to these machines. You're going to make mother's milk for us.
Yeah.
And actually, we do see her birth a kid with 4 legs.
Yeah, which just makes it, because like, oh, sorry, and it's like, that's a failed one then.
Although Immortan Joe could have been like, one with 4 legs. I wonder if we can design a vehicle for him where he'll know exactly what to press with the 4 legs, and we'll make it really cool and kind of powerful, and he would be a valuable asset on the battlefield, maybe.
Yeah, no, but he just said failure, and he just walked away basically because 4 legs, and it was kind of going like this way instead of like this way. It was kind of like a sideways something thing. So it's like. Not gonna work.
Yeah, probably. But you would have thought they could have used that to their advantage, and they designed a specific vehicle that can like handle all 4.
Yeah.
And then and then the 4-legged human is really skilled at it. It can like go into combat, and this guy's a little hard to beat. But maybe the baby didn't grow up or something.
I think they might have killed him.
I probably made him into free meat. Because that's what happens in the wasteland. If you're not useful, they're going to eat you.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And then as the movie goes along, we see Furiosa get a little older, and she has to disguise herself as a boy to rise up through the ranks.
Well, yeah, because at first she escaped, but she stayed. So she escaped as being the wife, but sticked around because it's like, where else can she go? So she had to stay. So she blended in herself as a boy, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And I have seen this plot trope where a girl will disguise herself as a boy so she can, like, get among people or rise up in the ranks.
Yeah, and she made herself a mute. Because, of course, if she said something, everyone will be like, huh?
Well, that's kind of interesting that she has to go mute. That way nobody recognizes her as a girl.
Yeah.
When Mulan was able to pass along everybody else and still do her voice.
She kind of... Mulan, she had to deepen her voice, even though it was like a, hey there, even though you could be like, any person was like, okay, you're acting up a voice here. But no one... I guess no one tried to do that in the film because she made it more believable.
That's
because she had to make her voice lower, and then it was like, okay, you're just one of the young guns who are just going through whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. Although you would think Furiosa would learn to somewhat deepen her voice a bit. You would think.
You would think, maybe, but who knows? Maybe even though they all are bloodthirsty savages, one of them was probably more cunning enough to realize you're faking it.
Mm-hmm. That too. And as we see her rise up through the ranks, we eventually see how the war rig gets built.
Yep. The war rig gets built, and then we see how it's used in action basically for the first time, or at least first time in this timeline.
Whenever there's like supply runs, they have to defend it from any hostiles that are out there in the wasteland.
Yep, which is one of the Dementor's.
It was Dementus's men.
Former men, because it was one of the former men that probably at some point went against him, because if we recall, when they captured the gas town, they used some of that men as decoys or fakes of the Citadel's people. But when they realized, oh crap, they're not taking the bait, we gotta make it more real. So they shot the men, and it's just like, you psychotic.
Oh yeah, I remember that. When he's using the tactic to take over Gastown, he gets like a bow and arrow, like he's Green Arrow, and he like fires it at the guys, and he's like, "What are you doing? Why are you firing at our men?"
And it's, why are you firing at our men? It's like, I gotta make it more real. They're not buying it. And it's like, then they eventually bought it, because when they actually start killing them, and it's like, oh, okay, no, this is actually real. They're fighting back for real. Oh man,
Oh yeah. But yeah, so when we see Furiosa, she's out with someone named Praetorian Jack, who was the original driver of the war rig.
Yep. I think he was mentioned wasn't he mentioned a couple times in Fury Roads? With her?
No, Praetorian Jack was not mentioned at all in Fury Road.
Hmm.
Not at all. In fact, I think if you watch Fury Road and you never knew that Furiosa had a lover, and this revelation's like, oh, so she was seeing somebody before all this.
Well, it didn't start off as that. It started off as like that, like that mentorship, but then it became that.
Yeah, it started off like that and then went into that. But I will give the movie credit. They didn't make this a cliche romance.
No, they didn't.
They did something a little more human with it. They did something more real, something more appropriate to this setting.
Yeah, a little bit more appropriate to the setting than instead of like that cliche sort of thing that we usually see
from
time to time. But it was like that mentorship, because she helped him out in that first, run, basically. And then it was like, because then she, after the whole thing, after the fight sequence, she was like telling him, drop me off to the side of the road. Which he did, in a more aggressive manner. And then after like a minute, and then he asked her, okay, where do you really think you're going?
Of course, she couldn't tell him where she was really going.
Because he's like, you're going to be going on foot. If you're escaping, the Citadel will just come and get you, and if they don't get you, anybody else will probably hunt you down, basically. Mm-hmm. Where on earth are you going to go?
Exactly. But she's not going to reveal where she wants to go, because again, she's sworn by oath, don't reveal the green place.
Yep, don't reveal the green place, yep. And that probably, she probably would not have gotten there back. And he probably figured that too. Wherever she was trying to go, she probably wouldn't get there, because going on foot, nothing else left to do, she would have been dead at some point.
Oh, definitely. And then, let me think, what happens next after that?
Basically, we go through a bunch of other things where it's like, all right, just follow, just come with me, be part of my crew again, which happened, and then they just kind of go about it, basically, of that whole sequence of her just working with him, basically, and all these other, like, rigged stuff. Missions or supply runs.
Yep, and they're actually hauling vegetables in the war rig, like a lot of vegetables.
Yeah, a lot of cabbages.
Yeah, there was a lot of cabbages. I didn't really see any carrots or anything else, but I just kind of have to wonder where they're getting all this.
Don't know where. Maybe it was the Cabbage Man.
The Cabbage Man?
My cabbages! Oh, you don't get the Last Airbender reference?
Oh, no, I do not.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. I really need to watch that, but anyway. Yeah, it's like, we know the Citadel's growing green stuff.
Yeah.
And the green place has its own agriculture, but where are they getting all these vegetables? Unless it's coming straight from the Citadel and they're, like, trading it with everybody else.
I would imagine so, since Citadel's, besides the green place, Citadel's the other place, so greenish area.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me wonder, are there any other green places out in this wasteland Australia? I don't know.
Don't know. But in the meantime, though, during all the supply run, because they went to Bullet Town.
They went to Bullet Farm.
Or Bullet Farm, that's right.
And
Bullet
actually,
Farm.
I was a little worried we weren't going to see Bullet Farm at first.
Mm-hmm.
But then they did eventually show us it, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Which they also showed in Bullet Farm, which they were like, hey, look, the people in Gastown are just, they're not doing their part, basically. We're getting screwed up. We're getting screwed over here.
Yeah, we need to get things back in order. And it's all because of that Dementus that things are not in order.
So you go tell Immortus Joe that we need to have a meeting about this. And then funny enough, when they get to Gastown, Dementus was like, hey, we need a meeting with Immortus Joe. And it's like, why is everyone calling for a meeting? Hey, why are you calling for a meeting with Immortus Joe when everyone is calling for a meeting about your issue, about the issue being you?
And I'm pretty sure he's like, no, the issue is with the Martin Joe, it's not with me.
It would have been like that, but instead then it got to a meeting, but it was without Dementus, and they were all like, this Dementus guy is screwing everything up. We need to go attack him.
Oh yeah.
At Gastown. And that's when they're like, you're right. So, first things first, you guys go to Bullet Farm, gather up what you need, and then head over to the Gastown.
Mm-hmm.
But then it kind of backfired on them.
Yep, and then it leads to another massive action sequence in Bullet Farm.
Bullet Farm, where it was the cliche, it's quiet.
A little too quiet. And immediately I'm like, it's a trap!
Yep, which eventually came to be, because it was like, douche, gates closed, and it was only just Jack and...
It was only Jack and Furiosa.
It was only Jack and Furiosa, which then Jack just was like, alright, we need to drive on, we need to get the rig out of here.
Oh, pretty much.
Which he starts to do, but then...
And then the gate comes crashing down, and it destroys one of the cars.
Yep, and then, everyone else died except for those two. Then Jack starts driving off. He signals to Furiosa, get out of here. But she doesn't. She helps him escape.
Mm-hmm.
And then, even though the war rig was destroyed, but they got onto a car and escaped. And their, at least Furiosa's initial plan is get to the green place, basically. But Dementus was like, who the freak just blew up not only the war rig, but blew up good parts of Bullet Farm. After them,
they're on the road, we can still catch them.
Yep. And he had he had a sight down, basically.
Yeah, we see him in the driver's seat, and the camera zooms in, and it's like, "Rrrr."
Yep, and he went up mountains, went jumping over things at a highly fast pace to where the
oh yeah,
the car could not escape. A small car could not escape a giant monster truck.
Oh yeah, and actually when they go up the hill, it's like they're going up really fast. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I mean he has it's a monster truck with 6 giant wheels, so it's probably good enough to drive up and down a hill very fast.
Yeah, it's just when you're going up on a hill, make sure you don't apply too much thrust to the vehicle, or it's gonna flip in the air.
Yeah, or if it's slow enough and you're trying to rev it up more, it could blow up the engine.
Exactly.
But it was not in this case. He was able to go up the hill just fine, and then down the hill, and was speeding up so quick that it caught up to Furiosa and Jack.
Yep, and by the time he does catch up to them, Furiosa's hand gets caught on the side.
Which explains eventually the mechanical arm.
Yep, that's how Furiosa loses her arm. Spoiler alert, she basically gets her hand caught between 2 vehicles. I think there was a wheel. I think I saw a wheel.
Maybe, but it was just Dementus just ramming into her because she was trying to shoot, but it was like, no you don't.
Oh yeah, and then she's like,
Yep, and then eventually the car flipped over, and everyone else just finally caught up, and then it was punishment time, basically.
To which Dementus said, oh, you think you had hope? There is no hope!
Yeah. Where do you think you guys were going? There's nothing out here. So then Jack gets basically just ragdolled around, and...
Well, I mean, they tie him up, and he's running, and then look, he lands on the ground, and they drag him around in an endless circle, and then they release the dogs on him.
Yep, and then Furiosa was chained up just to watch.
Yeah, but it goes right into the sunset, and then Dementus gets bored and is like, alright, turn off the machines, we're done here.
Yep, but then as he gets off, all of a sudden he sees the arm. It was just the arm, and it's like, wait, where did she go? Which did I beg the question after the movie with that particular scene, like, didn't none of the bikers see her just drive off?
Yeah, and I think my explanation was they were kicking up so much sand and dirt that she used that to her advantage.
Maybe, but that probably be the only thing, because otherwise I'm thinking, like, you would think they would saw a bike going past by them, because they are all in, like, equally apart from each other, and there was multiple of them around where one of them could have been like, boss, I think one person left.
Wait, what? And then he like sees her like, oh, how did we not see this?
Yeah, because then they see the arm, and then they're like, where's the drag after her? And then she finally did get back to the Citadel again, because again, nowhere else to go but to the Citadel again.
And actually, before she reaches the Citadel, we actually get a cameo from somebody.
Oh, that's right, because she was just dragging around the wasteland, and it looked like it was one of those, like, she's, one of those sequences where the person's, like, dying grasp or whatever. But yes, we get a quick cameo of Mad Max himself.
Yep, the director did confirm it was Max Rockatansky. That's his last name. And actually, I kind of want to talk about this scene a little bit. I'm not sure if we needed a Mad Max cameo.
Or even, let's just say, if you had him in there, why not at the end of the film?
Yeah, that too. But it's like, the reason why they throw it in there is because this is a Mad Max story. It's set in the world.
Yep.
But I just have to wonder, like, why is Mad Max around close to where the Citadel is now, when my impression with the opening of Fury Road is that he didn't find out about this until that movie's opening.
Yeah, until the movie's opening a little bit. Maybe he got closer each time. Maybe he just kept on the outskirts and just only got closer and closer. And then when he got to the opening, he got too close.
Maybe this is a reference to either the video game or some other tie-in media, because I know the video game tied heavily, or at least, I don't know if it tied heavily, but it did tie into Fury Road.
Yeah, because he stayed close in the wasteland, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Max, is that he's a wandering warrior traveling the wastelands, no purpose, and helping out people wherever he goes.
Yeah.
Which is actually what Samurai Jack does. Samurai Jack, he just like wanders the land, helps people out, but at least he has a purpose. He needs to find a way home.
Yeah, where Max no longer has a purpose, really. Except for just helping people.
Yep.
But he doesn't have a singular goal.
Yep.
Or at least a singular purpose like Samurai Jack.
Yeah, and with Mad Max, I mean, it's just, I get, why they put that in there, but I feel like if you cut the cameo out, it doesn't really change anything.
No, it most likely doesn't. And then we get to the carcass, or like the corpse, basically.
Yeah. This was probably the most disturbing scene in the whole movie right here.
Yeah, because this was, her arm and everything else like that, even though it was those maggots all around, like, dying corpse or dead corpse. Yeah,
you see the maggots, like, feasting on the corpses of whoever's in this, like, cave, and you can almost hear the maggots going, "It looks like meat's back on the menu, boys!"
Or, like, gnawing at it, and you're like, and then she wakes up, and it's like, no, you could be fine down here. One of the older lady was like, you could be fine down here. And she's like, nope. And then she gets back.
Well, actually, one more thing I wanted to mention about the maggot scene, because, I said, meat's back on the menu, boys. It would have been kind of, maybe someone will do a parody of this, where the maggots go, "We ain't had nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days. Yeah, let's get some meat."
Yeah, but then she gets back onto the lifts that was taking them back up to Amora's show, and she's like, and then she reveals that she's the Furiosa, and they're like, what the frick happened to you?
Oh, I lost an arm in an accident, but anyway, Dementus, we gotta talk about Dementus.
Yeah, because they were like, because they were talking about how Gastown, it looked like it was up in flames. Mm-hmm. It looked that way, but then she came back up and saying that, nope, that's just a ruse, a decoy basically, because he took Bullet Farm. And
then the Bullet Farm was like, "How do you know that? We should charge head on and go fight him in the battlefield."
Well, they were having the war discussion again, because the crazy guy was a lot more like, "Go over there head on." The other guy's like, no, we'll stay up, we'll fortify our position here then.
Because if we leave the Citadel undefended, they're going to take it over, and then they'll overthrow us.
Yep, and it's like, that's a coward way. And then, meanwhile, Mortis Joe kind of gaze up and down, basically, or just gaze at her eyes, basically, at Furiosa's eyes, because he's like, oh no, she speaks truth. I can see that fiery vengeance in her eyes. She speaks truth. All right, we'll send a decoy out to Gas Town, and then when the time comes, we'll attack them head on when they send their force towards the Citadel.
Oh, definitely. And then Furiosa's like, I want Dementus, and I want to take him out personally. And then Immortan Joe, he doesn't say anything, but you can almost hear him going, yeah, I'm cool with that.
He's like, fine. Yeah, he basically kind of give the fine look, because it's like, I'm not going to get in your way, not at this point of time right now. Because it's like, you're helping me out, you want this for vengeance, fine.
Oh, definitely. And then this is kind of something that happens. I thought the movie was actually going to stop here.
Oh, because the whole monologuing as if, you're about to see a scene fade to black and then credits or something like that, because there was monologuing, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the monologue basically describes there was a lot of wars going on between Immortan Joe and Dementus's men. It lasted for like 40 years or something.
No, I think it was 40 days or something like that. It was like a 40-day war, not 40 years. It was like
40 days makes more sense. I probably misheard it.
Yeah, it was a 40-day war. Well, he was mentioning, we have all these other wars. The War of the Roses, the Thousand Years War.
The opioid wars, why are we fighting over heroin?
The opioid, and then the nuclear stuff, the 6 Day, the 1,000, again, and then it's like all these different famous wars, basically.
Yeah, and it's
now, the 40-day war.
Yeah, and it's like, I kind of feel like someone could make a spin-off and we could see all those wars. Maybe animated TV series? I don't know.
All the historian wars?
Yeah, all those wars that the guy was mentioning. I kind of feel like they were setting it up as if they might get a spin-off to that.
I think it was just trying to say that this is going to, at least in this timeline, this is going to go down as another popular or famous historical war.
All right, hang on, everybody.
Because he's mentioning as if, as if it was on point with all these other historical wars. The War of the Roses, which is Britain in history. We had the 6 Day War, which was Egypt and Israel. The 1,000-year War, which is, all of Europe basically. Or the 100-year War, basically, which was again like all of Europe.
And then there was the opioid war, like I said, and it's like, wait, we're fighting over heroin and other opioids?
Yep.
That's not healthy.
Australia did have a war of their own against the ostriches.
Oh yeah, the ostrich war. It's like the ostriches are like, the humans are destroying everything. We declare war.
Yeah, I think didn't the ostriches win or in that war? Little
I don't quite remember, but it's like maybe the ostriches bred too much, and it's like, we keep doing this. We got more numbers than you do.
Yeah, it was one of those weird wars that. It's a weird war in the history books. Let's put it that perspective, all right?
And then the ostriches probably teamed up with the emus, and the emus are like, yeah, we got the same problem. We're all going to take out the humans. Yeah. We're stronger and faster than them.
Yeah.
Which, that would actually be kind of a funny movie if, the ostriches and the emus suddenly show up and they're mutated or evolved, and they, go to war with everybody.
Yeah, no, but anyways... The guy was just referencing all those wars, and that for this war, basically, this is the 40-day war, which will go down into history, and it's like, what history book? All of them are in ruins. You're the only one that remember them because there are probably some remnant books that probably didn't get burnt away.
That's probably the case. But seriously, yeah, when the historian starts monologuing about all these wars, and then we see these shots of Furiosa with the mechanical arm and how she makes it.
Yep, how she's making it. Meanwhile, there's an actual battle going on outside the Citadel.
Yeah, and then she shaves her head.
Yeah.
And she starts wearing her outfit and has the black paint, black soot or whatever on her forehead.
Yep, basically giving her the outfit as we saw in Fury Roads.
Yep. And at that point, I was in the theater and I was like, oh, is the movie going to stop here? Is it seriously going to stop? And it kind of got the impression that it was going to do that. And if it had stopped there, I would have been like, it's over? I hate abrupt endings.
Yeah, but it did it. And we got her in the car. And then eventually she took one of the other car. and then she went off to chase after Dementis.
And this was actually a really fun action sequence to watch, where she's in the smaller car and she's like driving around the sand dunes.
Yep.
And then she's got her face mask and the goggles.
Yep, and she chases after him, and she eventually pick off most of his comrades one by one. I say most because one person get caught by like some scavengers or regulars, whatever, and they kill them basically on sight. And she realized, oh, that's not him. And it was like one other biker left, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And that was Dementis.
And then, of course, eventually she does catch up to him, and I believe there's a big sandstorm.
Yep, and then it was just, then she kind of like chases him down with the car, and then she backs up, and then she kind of like, knocks him out, and then she has her own monologue of wanting her life back, basically.
Wanting her life back, and then Dementis is like, well, I don't know if you can have that back because I lost everything too.
I don't think it's more of I don't think you can. It was more of like, you cannot have that the same way I cannot have my own life back.
Definitely.
And then at some point he realized who she was, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, little D.
Yep.
And
but then she keeps like beating him and stuff.
Yep. And then she kind of went through all sorts of stuff with him, basically. Which was like, it looked like she shot him in the head, and all of a sudden...
it looks like she shot him in the head, but we didn't see a large amount of blood come out, nor any brain matter fly out.
No, but then it was like... And then she kind of dragged him like he did with...
Praetorian Jack. She like ties him up, and then he's like running on his feet, and then... he falls down.
And then crucified him like he did to the mom, and then the last thing it showed was basically her planting the seed down in the, where...
That scene was really weird to me, because it's like, you plant a seed down there, and then it like grows out of the human, and the human acts like a fertilizer.
Yeah.
I'm not a botanist, so I cannot explain that scene.
I cannot explain that scene either, but that was the last thing she did to him, which basically made him like...
It made him all like really skinny, you see his rib cage and stuff.
And he could not move, but he was still alive.
Oh yeah.
So it was like it was almost like an eternal torture of sorts.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was an interesting visual. It's just I just don't know how something like that could work.
Which then leads to the inevitable kind of like scene where it was like, oh yeah, this is basically the start of Fury Roads, because she took the wives and get on a war rig and drove off, which we saw in Fury Roads.
Yep, we basically see the 5 wives that Joe had. Probably younger actresses. They don't look like the same as the ones from before.
No, because I mean, we kind of saw it because it wasn't the same group of people as before.
Yep, and then she loads them up onto the war rig, and then of course you know what happens next.
Yep, which actually the credits actually would be like, in this case, if you need some refresher a little bit, here's some scenes from the movie itself in the credits.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't really know if those needed to be in there at all.
I guess it's just more of a neat way of just saying, yeah, this is literally a direct tie-in heading into, Fury Roads. It could have been, very similar had Rogue One did a very similar thing at the end of the Star Wars.
Except Rogue One didn't have scenes of A New Hope in its credits.
No, the only thing was, that they were running very similarly to the start of the New Hope, though, except they, gave the plans to Leia, and then you see that. You see her
take her hood off, and then she's like, "This is going to give us hope." And then Tantive 4 hyperspace is away.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, but I think in Rogue One's case, yes, it leads into A New Hope, but it doesn't have scenes from A New Hope throughout the credits, because that would be weird if a Star Wars movie did that.
It would have been weird.
That's like if you ended Revenge of the Sith, and then throughout the credits you had like scenes of the original trilogy.
Maybe. I would say more Rogue One, because that is a tie-in to one of the main movies. Just like how Furiosa is one of the main tie-ins to the main film.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I say Rogue One, because it's like you end Rogue One, all of a sudden we see scenes of, like, highlight scenes of New Hope.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, good thing they didn't do that, but it's like, they didn't need to do the highlight scenes here.
Yeah.
But I guess really it's like, You could probably watch Fury Road after this. Although, preferably, I would watch these movies in order.
Or, if you want to, and for all the editors out there, once Furiosa comes out to like streaming services or DVD, you could make a... How long is Fury Road?
It's 2 hours and a minute long.
So, a 4-hour grand film of Mad Max, Furiosa.
Oh, you're suggesting the filmmakers should put the two films together and make it into one movie?
Basically, kind of like a 4-hour type of movie.
I mean,
where the start of the film is Furiosa, and then once you get to the, like, her doing the whole doom, then it's just like, because they had it black. It's like, alright, the scene's black, and instead of going to the credits there with Furiosa, now you go to the start of the Mad Max.
I mean, they could.
Fury Roads.
I mean, one could do that as a fan edit. I don't know if it'll be something official.
Yeah, the same though. Like for all the people out there, you know, like fans and stuff like that, they could, once Furiosa gets out to, you know, streaming and DVDs and stuff like that,
I just don't
they
know.
could make that edit to where it's a 4-hour film, basically.
I just don't know if like these two movies warrant that. Like I don't know, because let's say you put Infinity War and Endgame together as one film. I can see that working. Because that's basically one giant film cut in two. And then with the recent Dune films, one could put that together as one giant film.
Yeah.
Because I see that as one giant film cut in two.
Yeah.
But with Furiosa and Mad Max, it's like, I don't know, like, I'm not quite sure if that would work.
Is it just because of the different, you know, like actors and actresses of sorts?
It's not really that. It's like just the way these two films are made, it feels, you know, different. Whereas Furiosa, in my mind, walking out of it, it feels like the old Mad Max movies before Fury Road. Mm-hmm. It really got a lot of like older Mad Max movie vibe out of that. And Fury Road is not like the older Mad Max movies. It's a lot more faster. It's a lot more action-packed.
Yeah.
That we do get character moments, but the main focus of Fury Road was purely action, whereas the older Mad Max movies, they had the action, but they bounced it out with the characters and the plot, which is what the case is with Furiosa. And maybe if there was a transition scene of like the old style to the new style, maybe that could work.
Yeah.
But the way I see it, I just don't know if I can edit them together as one giant film.
Someone could, though. I can see that, though, for sure.
I mean, yeah, because I know there's fan edits of The Hobbit where they put all three together as one film, but that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because the book's not that thick. It could work as one movie.
Yeah.
But in this case, like, I just don't know.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, I could, because then after Furiosa, once you get that ending scene, now all the Fury Road is just basically this endless height, like, the rest of the remaining 2 hours as the climax because it's all action.
Well, I do know the director, he wanted to film Furiosa and Fury Road back to back initially, but that didn't work out. He had to do them as two separate things.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm just not sure if you can edit it together as one giant film.
Yeah.
I don't know if it calls for that. I know other movies can do that, but I'm not so sure on this one. But I think we can get to the bottom line now.
Yep.
Bottom line, I liked this.
Yep, it was a solid film.
Yes, I think this is made with this movie. It's got its action sequences, but it's balancing it out with story and character and plot, which is something the older Mad Max movies did. And it's nice that Miller went back to that.
Yeah.
Because with Fury Road, he made an extremely action-packed movie. It was like non-stop action that had its moments of slowdown and break, but I think with Fury Road, he like had a lot of ambition with it.
Yep.
He saw that ambition achieved, and he delivered in a way that few, if any, can do.
Yeah.
And so with Furiosa, he's going back to basically, you know, the style of the older movies, and he's still making it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He's still finding a way to make it fun and really cool to look at,
Yep.
while giving us some insight into what makes Furiosa tick and how she came to be.
Yeah.
But I did like this.
Yeah.
Would I watch it again? Maybe somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
I'm just quite not sure where.
Where or when?
Yeah, where or when. Because it's like, do I watch this before Fury Road? Do I watch this after Fury Road?
Yeah.
And I usually watch movies in the order of their release, never in chronological.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I'm not quite sure how I would watch this back to back with Fury Road.
I could see if you're going like by like chronological order, you could eventually see Furiosa and then immediately put in Fury Road because it does, again, directly tie in.
I mean, I could do that. Or I watch Fury Road first, get my dose of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I have to slow down after all that fun to get some backstory and context.
Yeah.
Then that's one way to look at it. But to sum it all up, why I liked this movie, I liked the action. I thought it was very well done. It's consistent with the previous Mad Max movies.
Yep.
It's got that touch of Fury Road, but also has the touch of the older 3 movies.
Yep.
The acting was generally well done. I liked everybody in this. Chris Hemsworth, he was really good in Dementis.
Yep.
Like, he can go from being kind of, sort of like crazy and intimidating, and then a little more like grounded.
Yeah.
In a way. The actor that does play Morton Joe, this is not the same one. This is a much younger actor.
Yeah.
He was pretty good, actually.
Yeah, he did a good job as in Mortis Joe.
Yeah, he was good, and then his sons were good, especially Scrotus, who was the psychotic one.
Mm-hmm.
The Bullet Farmer and the main lead of Gashtown, and just everybody else. I really liked everybody.
Yeah.
They just know that this is a story that like requires the utmost attention. We have to get invested really well.
Yeah.
And the look of this movie was very consistent with Fury Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really consistent.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. Where one thing I do kind of feel like took me out of the movie a bit, though, was, I don't know if you noticed this, but there were moments where it felt like they were using a green screen for some of the backgrounds. There were moments where it just looked kind of like everybody was on a green screen, or just the way they may have filtered it.
Oh, yeah?
It kind of had this video game look to it almost. It was in specific moments throughout the movie, but it kind of took me out of it just a bit.
Would it be like some of those moments with like Jack and Furiosa, like in that driving sequence?
Yeah, the driving sequence when they're transporting all those vegetables in the war rig.
Oh, yeah?
There were backgrounds that looked like someone shot them on a green screen, or like they were artificially put in there. And in the credits, I noticed AI visual effects, and I'm like, was AI used on this movie? And I'm like, oh no, because if they did something that looked really fake, I would have been like, oh. But I mean, for the most part, a good amount of the visuals looked practical.
Yeah.
If there was any CGI, it was used very minimally, which I did like. But one CGI thing I did notice was that little lizard that comes out of the skull.
Oh, yeah?
That was clearly computer animation, and I could tell.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, and I mean, this was just, a good movie that gave you insight into Furiosa.
Yeah.
What made her tick, like what she went through before she became the warrior that she was.
Yeah.
And one very positive comment that I have to say about this, the female characters were not written with an agenda in mind. None of them were.
Nope.
These characters were written to be human. They were written as, actual people who struggle in this very harsh world.
Yep.
And none of them were spouting stuff that, has to tie into current politics or has to basically take you out of the movie and you're like, oh gosh.
No.
Yeah, none of these characters were written with that in mind. And that's what I really like about George Miller is like, he writes his female characters to where they're human. They're in this world. They're surviving. They have layers to them. They're not here for a political purpose or another, and they're not going to spout something so as to appease people.
Yeah.
Because had they done that route, like they've done with a few others that I can think of, then I would have been like, oh, this is not fun. And it would have taken me completely out of the movie.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I can think of a few examples, Marvel especially.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I just like that was not the case here. And that's what made me really enjoy watching these characters and the journey they go through.
Yeah.
Another thing, too, I will say about the vengeance when it comes to Furiosa and Dementis.
Yep.
At least she got her vengeance and didn't cop out.
No.
Because in Last of Us Part 2, Ellie's going to get her revenge on Abby, and then she cops out at the end.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot more issues with Last of Us Part 2 than just that scene alone.
Yeah, there were way more issues than that, but it's like, in Last of Us Part 2, what's the matter with you? You're getting vengeance on this person because she killed a person that you were very close to, and you're just going to let her go away scot-free after all that fighting? And I know someone's probably going to defend that ending somehow, because there's got to be someone who will.
I mean, there's a group of people that will, because, I mean, it got a lot of defense. it got a lot of the feds heading its way to that, you could say, the infamous Game of the Year awarded.
Oh gosh, and all the inflated scores. Oh man.
Yeah, because remember that year?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, because it infamously won it. When everybody in the gaming community know it did not deserve it.
Yeah, and it's just like the amount of questionable story decisions in that are an example of what happens when you let someone have too much creative control and he has no one to balance him out. Yeah. Now, some people who can have creative control, if they know what they're doing and they're not going to do anything controversial, I trust them.
Yeah.
But with Neil Druckmann, it's like, yeah, you needed someone to balance out your crazy ideas.
Yeah, majority of the people knew that game did not or should not have won Game of the Year, but it did. So, yeah, so it went down in the infamous books, basically.
Oh, definitely. And that's why I like this movie is like, it's not doing controversial story decisions. It's playing out in a way that is natural, makes sense, and doesn't do anything like out of ordinary or breaks the rules of the world.
Yeah.
And that's why I like George Miller's approach to these movies is like, he's a man who wants to give you a story and tons of action, but he wants it to be natural and he wants it to flow as if these are real people.
Yeah.
Which is something I just really like.
Yep.
And the fact that there are other creators who have trouble with that, y'all need to learn a thing or two from George Miller. He can help you out. But I really did like this. I did like this, and I had a good time with it.
Yep.
Would I watch it again? Somewhere. I'm not quite sure when or where, but I would watch this again.
Definitely.
And you?
At some point, maybe, if someone else, if like another group of friend, or if my dad, since he does like the Mad Max, saga, he likes that one. If he wanted to watch Furiosa, I could definitely watch with him again. Otherwise, I'll have to figure out same thing, when and where.
Yep. And I guess really, I'm kind of want to figure this out too. Where does Furiosa rank among the Mad Max movies?
Well, because there's only, you could say 5, basically, because there's...
Four technically.
Well, 4. Well, yeah, 4. Well, because you got the first one, then you have the second one.
You have Road Warrior, then you got Beyond Thunderdome and Fury Road.
Yep, so that's 4 right there. And then this one, Furiosa, which is part of the Mad Max saga. So that's 5 right there. I think everyone can universally agree, though, Thunderdome, although I would probably put it as non-applicable, but for everybody else, though, I can see Thunderdome being rated 5 for the lowest.
I actually want to disagree with them on that. For my personal ranking, I'm going to put The Road Warrior as number 1, which is the second Mad Max film.
Yep.
Because that movie has its place in action cinema history, and it is the gold standard for how to do an action movie with a really good story behind it.
Okay, that was number 1, but I was talking about last place.
Last place?
Thunderdome being last.
Thunderdome's not last place for me. I would say the first Mad Max might be last place for me. I still like the movie. It's just that's more of the introduction to Mad Max before the world goes to waste.
Yeah.
Before things go bad.
I feel like that would be amongst the top 3 because even though it is again the first one, it looks a little bit on the older scale, but it does kind of give a little bit good storytelling then.
Yes, it does. It's just, I think with the first one, it's it's introducing everything, and it's the really interesting stuff doesn't happen until the wasteland begins, and that's in Road Warrior.
Yep.
Because when we get to the wasteland, that's when it gets more interesting.
Yep. And then that's when we see more of that wasteland, and then Thunderdome, and then the big Fury Road.
I would probably put Fury Road for me at number 2.
Yeah.
Because it's a fun movie. It's a lot of fun. One of the best action movies I've ever seen. It's just with the Road Warrior just had so much there was so much vision behind it. Same thing with Fury Road. They both had vision behind it. And Fury Road's the bigger budgeted Mad Max, I would argue.
Yeah.
Because the other ones, they did have budgets, maybe not the highest of budgets, but they still worked really well.
Yeah.
And Fury Road, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't put it number 1 like everybody else.
Yeah, because I feel and I may put myself in there, including that Fury Road will be number 1 because it was a grand action movie that it was hard to go up against too, even to some extent for some movies to this day. Hard to just have this continuous action but still be enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those rare examples where, continuous nonstop action, but it's got a lot more to it outside of the action, and you're just so invested in the story, because there's been other movies throughout the years where the action was nonstop, but the filmmakers forgot to write characters or just have an interesting story. And usually when that happens, the action can be so numbing to the point that you're not invested in it.
Yeah.
But with Fury Road, you're so invested in the action.
Yeah.
And it's not numbing because you care about these people. You want to see what happens to them. You want to see them achieve their goals.
Yeah, and you hear some of the story, which makes it interesting. Which is oh, we need to get these ladies to a safe haven, basically. And here comes this rogue warrior, basically, that was willing to help them out, get to that safe haven.
I think, where would I rank Beyond Thunderdome and Furiosa? That's kind of the hard part for me. That's the hard part for me, is I need to watch Thunderdome again. I'm not quite sure what I would think of it now, but I do remember liking it when I saw it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of torn, because what I'm trying to get at here is the Road Warrior. Everybody pretty much liked that when it came out.
Yeah.
And that was basically the highest standard of action film you could get at the time of its release. That when Beyond Thunderdome came out, people were disappointed in that. And I'm not saying people will be disappointed in Furiosa. I'm just saying that Fury Road, it set the bar so high.
Yeah.
So high, and it's how can you top that?
Yeah.
And in Furiosa's case, it probably doesn't top that high bar.
No.
I mean, maybe it gets close, but it's still a generally well done movie.
Yeah.
That gives you some character and story that's interesting.
Yeah.
And it has that nice action that made you like the Mad Max movies to begin with.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
And maybe I would put Furiosa above Beyond Thunderdome, only because I think this is an R rating.
Yeah.
I don't think this is PG-13. I would put it above that. And Thunderdome may go below Furiosa, and then the first Mad Max would be the bottom one for me. But I don't think the first Mad Max is bad. I'm just saying, it's basically before the Wasteland, before all the cool stuff happens.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at with my ranking.
Yeah.
You were going to finalize yours?
I would put Thunderdome as not applicable for me, just because I don't recall watching it. I would probably put then the first Mad Max, then probably the second, Furiosa, and then, because it would be somewhere where I would have Fury Roads at number 1, though. I know that for sure, because I know you put it at number 2, and I'll be amongst the people that put Fury Roads at number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I just love The Road Warrior so much. It's one of those movies where you see it and you're just like, this is why we don't have a high standard when it comes to action films sometimes. We have action movies that, they're bombastic and crazy, but sometimes it's you need characters and story that are really interesting that you can get behind.
Yeah.
And that's why I like The Road Warrior so much. And Fury Road is that, again, so much action, but they have interesting aspects to them that make them so enjoyable.
Yeah.
And not a lot of action movies can do that, but when they do that, it's really good.
Yep.
And, I mean, I had a good time.
Yep.
There's no post-credit scene to this, by the way, so if you sit all the way to the end...
there was no post-credit scene. There were only snippets or highlight moments of Fury Road during the credit scenes.
Mm-hmm. The only thing we get at the end is someone's bobbing bird head.
I believe I think it was one of the last highlight moment, but it was just one of the things from Fury Roads, because I think you quoted at the end the
what a day, what a lovely day.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's exactly what the scene was.
Yep.
And there wasn't really anything else. That's just it. I do know that George Miller has said he might want to do a couple more Mad Max movies.
Yeah.
Because he said the next one, they have a placeholder title for it. It's called Mad Max: The Wasteland. And Tom Hardy said he probably wants to come back and do more. I mean, he's got to finish up working on Venom 3 before he can get to that.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Venom 3 is going to turn out, but that's going to be kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, if George Miller does make 2 more Mad Maxes, well, he might want to hurry up because he's almost 80. It's how much more time do you think you got, man?
Yeah, we'll see.
You might want to get those next 2 made soon. And then small little thing I need to mention here, but I'm not going to give away too much because this is kind of personal. But my sister, who saw this movie, she said that this is secretly a Quiet Place movie, Furiosa. And I'm like, what? Mad Max and Quiet Place are two completely different things. Like, where'd you get that? I'm sorry. I don't know if you're going to watch this, but to my sister out there, I'm sorry, but I don't know how you got that. I seriously don't.
Man.
I don't know how you got that. Like, I know people can have, unique perceptions of movies, but it's like, where'd you get that?
I can only think of just Furiosa just being quiet for the majority of the movie.
There's that, but it's like, in A Quiet Place, the reason why they all don't talk is because they don't want to attract the aliens. Yeah. But everybody's like talking in this movie, so it's like, what? Why are you? That's like, what is it? You're trying to compare apples to oranges. I think that's what it is with Mad Max and Quiet Place. It's like an apples to oranges comparison or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll leave that, your comment about your sister with the comparison to you, basically. I'll step away from this.
Yeah, because, I didn't want to get too personal, but she did see this movie recently, and that was one of her comments on it, and it's like, what? I don't get that. At other times, she can make comments on other movies that I will add a little more layers to, but it's like, I just don't get that perspective. I don't get that. Mm-hmm. It's so weird. Like, I'd rather not go too much into it, but it's really strange.
Yeah, because she may see this and then may call you up.
I can handle a conversation with her. I will talk to her about it. But I don't give away too much personal stuff because, I want to keep everybody safe and whatnot. Yep. But yeah, it's like, it's just so weird. But, people have these perceptions and stuff. It's just, It is what it is. I don't think there's much else to say, but
nothing much else. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a good side addition to Fury Road. If you really like Fury Road, you'll probably like this movie.
Yep.
If I had to come up with another way to describe it too, it kind of feels like an expansion pack to Fury Road.
Pre-sequel to Fury Roads?
Maybe. But the way I'm looking at it is like they released the core game, and then eventually they released this big DLC pack that's got a lot more to it.
Yeah, but it was like this expansion is a prequel to the main game. Yeah,
and there's been games that can do that, like you said with Borderlands.
Yep, pre-sequel.
And it's just like, I just kind of feel like this is an expansion pack to Fury Road, and if you really liked Fury Road, you'll probably like this. But I will tell people this, I will give people a warning though. If you're expecting this to be as big and action-packed as Fury Road was, it's got the action, but there's more story and character to it, which is a little more like the older Mad Max movies. So I will warn people that before you go see this, that's what I got out of it.
Yep.
And I don't know how you're going to react to this, but most people have reacted positively.
Yep.
And I don't know if this is a movie of the year for me. I don't, but I think it's really well done.
Yeah.
I think it's really well done. It adds more lore to the Mad Max world. It's got a lot of really interesting moments and scenes, and it's just a relatively good time.
Yep.
If you're looking for a good action film that's got some really interesting lore aspects to it, go see this.
Yep.
And I think that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, big announcement here, but it's going to be a while before we get our next one out, because I think Deadpool 3 will be our next one.
That'll be in July, right?
Yeah. Unless, of course, we go see the Twister sequel.
Not too sure about that one.
Not too sure about the Twister sequel?
Yeah.
You didn't see the first one, did you?
I don't recall, no.
Okay, we'll put all our focus on Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
Which we did get a trailer for that.
Yep.
And, okay, I know I was going to save all this stuff for Deadpool 3, but I kind of want to mention a few things about it.
All right.
For one, when I'm hearing all these F-bombs getting dropped, especially coming from Wolverine, I find that a little off-putting, I know Wolverine gave a lot of F-bombs in Logan.
Yeah, and Wolverine has a type of attitude that we've seen, throughout all the other X-Men and Wolverine movies, so
Well, it's just...
I mean, for me, I'm kind of fine with that one.
Well,
it doesn't take me out of the that's unusual for Wolverine. I'm like, no, that's Wolverine.
Well, where it gets with the constant F-bomb drops is like, if it becomes so much to the point where it's like, they're doing it to justify the R rating, then it feels kind of crass, in my opinion.
or unnecessary. Yeah.
Yeah, but with Logan, it's like, yeah, he dropped all the F-bombs in Logan, but in that story, it made sense because that was a more adult story.
Wasn't at that point in Logan like all the X-Men were
pretty much all the mutants were gone.
Yes.
But it's like that's a more mature story that's got a more adult take on a comic book character.
Yeah.
Whereas with Deadpool 3, I wouldn't necessarily call it adult or mature. It's just like we're having fun with the R rating, so we're going to kind of go as crass as we can.
I mean,
and I get this is what
it's Deadpool though.
I get this is what Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool is. I totally get it, but it's like just hearing Wolverine say all that. It's I don't know, and it's like I'm a little worried how they're going to handle that in the movie. The other thing too is like this Wolverine is responsible for the destruction of his universe, or at least something he did,
or did or didn't do, whatever the case may be, that caused his world to kind of get blowing up.
Yeah, and it's like, what's that revelation going to be? I wonder what it's going to be.
Well, what could have happened, knowing what we know of Wolverine?
But it's like, I just don't know if Wolverine can be directly responsible for the destruction of his universe.
Well,
unless he failed to stop Jean Grey, and Jean Grey went Dark Phoenix on everybody, and he failed to get to her in time to stop her.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's the Phoenix one where we remember that he got to her and then stabbed her, which stopped it, although he didn't want to, but he had to.
Yes, because she was going to hurt everybody.
Yeah. So there could have been a timeline where his want overtook what needed to be done, and that causes the Phoenix to go, scorch earth on everything.
Yeah, and I mean, if they go with that explanation, I will be fine with that. But if they don't go with that explanation, I'm going to be like, oh, wait.
Well, you got to hear, if it's not that one, scorch earth from Phoenix, then let's hear what they have to say if it's not scorch earth.
Yeah, so, I mean, it'll be kind of interesting to see how the movie plays out.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you got these two characters, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yep.
They're going to go on some kind of buddy trip from the looks of it.
Yep, and the TVA is involved.
Oh yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Which is funny because the TVA, when we saw from Loki, they kind of fourth wall break a good chunk of stuff too a little bit, only for the aspect of, hey, we got you here because this was happening, and they pull up the TV little thing, or
I don't remember that being fourth wall breaking. That's more like in character for them.
Maybe, but it felt not. It's not talking to the audience, but kind of like them, like, all right, this is what's happening, and Deadpool's kind of like, hey, you're kind of going back to all the movies, and I kind of do that too in a fourth wall breaking manner. We can work this out.
I think with the TVA, it's not really fourth wall breaking. It's more like they're monitoring all these timelines.
Yeah.
They're just saying, we got to keep the sacred timeline this way, because if it breaks out in all these branches, then it's going to lead to something really bad. Kang and the Multiverse War.
Yeah, although they kind of failed at that perspective.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Although I'm kind of interested to see, because they confirmed Galactus is going to show up in the Fantastic Four film. Yeah. Is Galactus going to be the one that annihilates Kang if they don't move ahead with Kang?
Yeah, because it feels like, because the actor situation, they kind of have to figure something out there. Or they have to rush an ending of a villain to get to the next one, and hopefully that one doesn't, cause, issues.
Yeah, because I've been speculating with some folks that if they don't move ahead with Kang and recast, they could have Doctor Doom or Galactus take over, and they could annihilate all the Kangs. Yeah. And then they take over, and it's like, well, we had to do a last-minute change due to what happened with Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, with Deadpool 3, it's like, we also see Giant Man's corpse in the movie.
You mean Ant-Man?
Yeah, well, it's Giant Man, because he's in the big form.
Yeah. Well, it's Ant-Man in giant form, but yeah, he did.
But even in giant form, they still called him Giant Man in the comics.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really kind of interested to see. Oh, how did that happen? Is that like an alternate Scott Lang or an alternate Hank Pym?
Yeah.
And something happened, and it got really disastrous, and they died, and all the corpse had been rotting there in the suit for so long.
Well, it probably had to be run from the inside out because the suit's there, but when they open up the suit, it's just a skull.
Yeah, there's that too. And I think I also kind of want to know, because they confirmed this, we might see other Fox-related Marvel characters show up in Deadpool 3. Like, we're going to see Jennifer Garner as Elektra, a role she hasn't played since 2005.
Oh, yeah.
I think I heard a rumor we might see Ben Affleck as Daredevil again, which, I don't know how people are going to react to that. Will we see the Fox iterations of the Fantastic Four show up?
What about the Punisher, if we're going to get Daredevil?
The Punisher?
Yeah.
Well, actually, Punisher wasn't originally under 20th Century Fox. He was under a different studio at the time. But if you throw Punisher in Deadpool and Wolverine, I just don't know how that would make any sense. Because, yeah, I get he showed up with Daredevil, but it's like they might be saving that for something else, like Daredevil Born Again, maybe. Yeah. I need to find out more. But I guarantee you we will not see Punisher in Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah. But it'll be kind of interesting to see where that plays out, because, I mean, I did state in the Apes video, I'm not a Deadpool fan, and I will explain why, and I'm probably going to get hate mail for that. But really, it's like, there's just some characters I don't like.
Yeah.
There's just some characters I don't like, and I'm not the bad guy for admitting that. I'm not the bad guy. Everyone can think whatever they want, but...
Just fill up your case, though, for the audience when we review Deadpool 3.
Yeah, I mean, this would be kind of interesting to see how it plays out. Because, I mean, yeah, we needed a break from Marvel stuff due to the kind of fatigue we were somewhat getting.
Yeah.
But with this next movie, it's like, I kind of wonder if there's going to be any big multiverse revelations in here that might tie into Avengers 5 and 6. I don't know. Unless in Avengers 5 and 6, Deadpool is the one that, if they keep Kang, Deadpool's the one that kills Kang.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure all the Deadpool fans will get giddy over that.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, it'll be like, oh, should Deadpool have been the one that killed Kang? I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be kind of interesting to see how they play out. But another question I have is, because, Hugh Jackman said Logan was going to be his final time as Wolverine. And yet he came back for this.
It was interesting how it's like, but it does for me. It felt like definitely a Deadpool Wolverine moment, even though it wasn't like in character, but felt like it though, because, Hugh Jackman was like, I'm done with the Wolverine suit. Then Deadpool was like, can we go on one last adventure?
And then he's like, oh, fine.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yay! All right, bub, we'll go on one last adventure, but that's it. And I don't care how many offers you make me, I'll be done. Because I want to play a few other roles before I retire. Or something like that.
Not even for a Heineken?
No, bub. I'm going to be done after this.
I can offer you some more Heineken.
No, I'm done.
But we just did a commercial together with Heineken.
That was a one-time deal, okay? And there were a few other things in the contract. I'm not breaking the contract. But then Kevin Feige will be like, we'll let you kill Kang if you stay in the other movies. And then he'll be like, I don't know. Need to think about that. Yeah, but when Deadpool 3 comes around, that's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Will it be longer than the Furiosa video? Who knows?
Yeah.
But what I do know is that movie is getting a lot of attention right now. It's the one Marvel movie people are saying, will it save the cinematic universe?
Well, right now we've been kind of going back and forth between one movie or TV show. It kills Marvel now. Or next one, or a TV movie saying, oh, it saved it. Dead, save, dead, save. It's on that little beep, beep, shh, clear type of thing.
Yeah, but if they finish it off with Avengers 5 and 6, which I really would like them to instead of rebooting, just end it with Avengers 5 and 6 if you feel like, we had a good run, let's give the reins to someone else. Probably those Avatar sequels, but yeah, let's give the reins to someone else, because this franchise has been going on for a little while.
Yep.
I want to end it now. Unless Kevin Feige or somebody else in Marvel goes, we decided to keep the franchise around for another 50 years with endless options for rebooting. And then they'd be like, no, we don't want a Simpsons situation where it's going on for 30 plus seasons.
Thanos completes the snap.
Yeah, and then Thanos comes back in and he's like, well, I can stop that. I'll snap away all the people who have made this longevity going on for too long. Don't worry, you will not suffer the same fate as the Simpsons.
I was kind of going for more of a snap, but then it restarts the whole thing again.
It maybe restarts, but then he's like, no, wait, I don't want to restart it, because then I'll come back to this conclusion. I gotta end the whole thing now.
No, but I think it'll be more like a, if I'm gonna film this type of timeline, let's restart it.
Maybe that could be the case, but I honestly don't want them to go back to Thanos because this story's pretty much done with.
Yeah. Or maybe Galactus, he gets the stones and more like,
No, I don't want to get the stones. I just want to eat the whole universe.
Yeah, but it's more like if I can't eat it in this timeline, let's try again.
Or maybe that dimension jumping Ultron somehow comes back in, and then he's like, I'm going to destroy everything. Yeah. I'll go to the nexus point where all these universes connect to and end all of reality. Yeah. I don't know where it's going.
Yeah, I don't know, but either way though, either they'll end it or reboot it, but with an ultimate bang to where it's like, all right, new beginning.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know if they should do a rebooted MCU, because it's like, this franchise has been going on for so long, it really does need an ending to like just close off everything.
Yeah.
Because like, good example, the DC animated universe, which is Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, the 2 Justice League cartoons, and Batman Beyond, that ended, and there was no reboot. And they ended perfectly with describing... Well, the way they ended it, they started with Batman, they bookended it with Batman, in this case Terry McGinnis. There was no reboot after that.
Yeah.
The reason why they never rebooted it or continued it was because they ran out of stories and they didn't want to ruin the goodwill of that franchise.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, well, if you reboot Marvel, will it ruin the goodwill that we've had with this franchise so far? I don't know.
Well, at least I know with the Justice League and the DC one, they had another anime universe, which was the Dark one.
Yeah, based on the New 52, and then they ended up having to reboot that, and that's currently going through a crisis on Infinite Earths right now. Yeah, it is.
I believe so. Yeah, because I mean, they had the war at the end, basically, where then Constantine told Flash, we have to restart the board.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's kind of an issue I have with comic book and superheroes in general. Is like, we have to keep rebooting endlessly. We can't have a definitive ending.
Yeah.
Which is why I like the DC animated universe so much, is because it started with Batman, ends with Batman, and they don't reboot after that. They just give it a nice closure.
Or like that, we're talking like the 1990-2000 Batman, Superman, and
with the Justice League and Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
That had a really good ending to it. They never rebooted it.
And I believe Justice League Unlimited too, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And that ended quite fine, although some people had issues with it. But anyway, we've been rambling on, or I have been rambling on.
Yep.
But Furiosa, go watch it. It's a good time.
Yep.
And as for Deadpool 3, we will be there when it comes out, so we're gonna have a bit of a break to rejuvenate.
Yep.
But that will be an interesting one.
Definitely,
I guarantee it. And to anyone, get ready for what I'm about to say about Deadpool. You will probably hate me for it. But the truth is, I just don't like that guy. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. So just have a good time. Enjoy your summer. And
see you next time.
See y'all.